Jon, you've been coming to IndoDefence for many, many years. How has it changed over that period?
Well, I think this year, Chris, we've seen a real kind of expansion and growth in the interest here. I mean, it's been quite incredible, actually, the difference between 2012 and 14. And the key drivers for that growth is a real commitment to military modernisation here. That is underpinned by a 40% growth in defence spending over the last 4 years, projected 40% further growth in the next until 2018. We also have a new government in place. And that means that the government has already committed itself to military modernisation in a number of areas, all of which we're seeing here at IndoDefence. And added to all that, we also have in Indonesia over the past couple of years starting to be greater strategic drivers. In the past, Indonesia has managed to keep free from the concerns in the South China Sea, but I think in the last couple of years we've seen greater kind of concern in Jakarta about what's happening in the South China Sea, and all this means that military modernisation, there is a much greater commitment towards that, and also industrial development as well.
I mean, from my perspective, that in the past they've just manufactured small arms, ammunition, but now they're moving up market. They're moving to vehicles that are assembling aeroplanes. So there does seem to be a push to improve the military industrial base in Indonesia.
That's very right, Chris. I mean, what the government has said is that it is looking to develop its defence industry in order to enhance self-reliance, in order to support the TNI in its tasks, like I said, that are growing according to the strategic drivers. And the government has outlined a number of priority technologies and a priority procurement areas, and these include fighter aircraft, combat vehicles, propellants and explosives and missiles, C4I, ISR technologies, and also surface combatants and submarines. And these areas, I think, have been the focus at IndoDefence this year in terms of not only procurement but also industrial collaboration. And this industrial collaboration is underpinned by legislation that was introduced just 2 years ago, and this is another driver of growth in this defence show. This legislation was called the Defence Industry Law, and that means that all suppliers to Indonesia have to work with local companies. They have to involve local companies in the military production and research and development, and this has given a real emphasis at this show for this industrial collaboration, and all foreign equipment manufacturers looking to partner with local companies. We're at the beginning of this stage at the moment, so there are continuing concerns about local capability, but I think we've also seen here in Indonesia that many of the companies actually do appreciate that they're at the low end in terms of capabilities, but they're prepared to learn. I was talking to a company yesterday who said, we're prepared to learn step by step. We know we can't build fighter aircraft, but it's a long-term process, but we're willing to learn step by step. And this is something that's been very apparent at this show.
Yeah. I think there's also been a raft of MOUs signed at the show, or joint ventures, and I think obviously people like Rheinmetall have signed one with Pindad, Saab have signed one, and hopefully there should be one soon between Turkey and Indonesia to develop a medium tank. So there's a lot of business to be made if you cooperate with the local people.
Absolutely, Chris, and those areas that I've mentioned, fighter aircraft, propellants, military vehicles, these are all the areas where the government has made a commitment to invest, and it's a great opportunity for many foreign OEMs to come to Indonesia with the priority technologies that Indonesia has outlined and said, okay, let's partner, let's make an agreement. The problem with MOUs, as you know, is often just a piece of paper with nothing behind it, but I've seen a few instances here where actually there has been already hard, concrete kind of collaboration where the companies have actually produced something together, which I think is a a confidence booster for local industry in terms of actually being able to gain access to the technologies that they need to develop.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the APC, the power pack comes from France. It does not make sense to design and build a power pack in this country, but they can design the vehicle, they can integrate the vehicle and put various weapon systems on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think, and I've seen evidence to suggest that this is correct, that Indonesia actually does appreciate that it needs to do this gradually. We've seen instances, perhaps in India, where the government has pushed ahead at a very ambitious rate and tried to probably bite off more than it can chew. That has been the lesson, I think, that Indonesia perhaps has looked at and said, okay, we need to do this a bit more astutely, and therefore we need to take it a step-by-step approach. But that does mean that there is still a great dependence on foreign technologies, and that does mean, of course, that there is still great opportunities here for foreign OEMs.
I think when we come back in 2 years, it'll be interesting to see how many of these joint ventures and MOUs have actually progressed. But we're standing behind a Russian vehicle which is in service with Indonesian Marines. And I think also, not only are they modernised, they're getting a lot more enhanced capability. You know, the fighter aircraft, I think, was with South Korea, and that will be a step change for this country.
Yes, and indeed the fighter aircraft is one of the most ambitious programs that Indonesia has outlined to build. Basically, this program is to build, to develop and build a fighter aircraft with South Korea in collaboration with Korea Aerospace Industries. And this program is one that has a long-term emphasis. Indonesia has a 20% interest in this program. But again, I was talking to this company, PT Dirgantara Indonesia, who is involved in this program, and they've said, you know, there are priority areas that they're focusing on. They know they can't do the whole thing, but within each year they have specific targets that they're looking to achieve. It is a government-funded program, and that means that it's always susceptible to delay. But there is a plan in place to gradually develop this aircraft over the coming decade. And as you say, Chris, each kind of 2 years when we come back here, we can see, in ideal situation, we can see development. It won't be the case across the board. Many of the agreements that will be put in place won't actually develop in terms of a platform or a concrete opportunity, but some of them will. And I remember 2 years ago, many MOUs that were signed have not actually developed into anything, but some have. So you know, probably 50-50 is a good way of looking at it.
Not a bad thing. I mean, if you look at aerospace, they've been pretty self-sufficient in some of the transport aircraft and helicopters. So really, they're really going down the road in a logical way. They're not like running too fast, but they are getting there.
Yeah, the emphasis very much is on supporting the T&I. So that doesn't mean building fighter aircraft. That means sustainability. That means supporting the fighter aircraft, for example, supporting the tanks, and supporting other major platforms that they will buy from abroad, but the technologies that they can acquire through industry collaboration and defence offset policies and the like will enable local industry to, in some cases, build, but in most cases, in terms of the sophisticated platforms such as fighter aircraft, provide sustainability support, maintenance, repair and overhaul, customizations, upgrades. That is their ambition here. For the moment, I think perhaps in 15-20 years' time we may see that further develop, but at the moment they realise that is the goal, sustainability.
Yeah. Unless you get that through life support, you end up with a lot of aircraft sitting on the runways, a lot of tanks in the shed. So, I mean, my perspective, they've got lots of agreements with foreign companies and local weight to actually build up that integrated logistic support to keep that capability 24/7.
Yeah, the problem in the past in Indonesia, and we're still seeing this now, is that Indonesia has such a wide-ranging procurement strategy, and that means that it procures materiel from China, Russia, Europe, the US, South Korea, and that does present problems for logistics, and it does present problems for compatibility. Indonesia is late to be aware of this problem, but it's starting to realise that and this is part of this sustainability that I was mentioning, it's starting to realise that it needs to improve in this area in order to enhance the capability of the T&I. So yes, they will still procure from a wide-ranging suppliers, but the idea is that local support, local technologies can act as the bridge, if you like, to cross the difficulties that are sometimes apparent in logistics and sustainability with these very different platforms.
Thank you very much, John. We'll hope to catch up in 2 years and we'll count an eye on these MOUs and JVs. Some of them I'm sure will come through, but some will be on the wayside, but they're on the right track.
Absolutely, Chris.
Thank you
Yeah, very
much,
good.
John.
Thank you.